So first off, as you are well aware of what are Namibia's aspirations towards Vision 2030 and how that ties in with the SDGs, the NCRST, which I will introduce shortly, essentially is a public enterprise of the government, and it is a research council. And what we do is we align our national research agenda and innovation agenda together with Vision 2030 according to our Act, and we also then look at all of the priorities that we are setting for the country so that ties in well with the Sustainable Development Goals. So now, as a brief introduction of the NCRST, oh, by the way, I am Anisha Peters and I am the CEO of the NCRST. So, as a brief introduction of the NCRST was established by an Act of Parliament, Act number 23 of 2004. That Act established two sort of very important establishments for Namibia. The first one being the National Commission on Research, Science and Technology, and the second one is a National Research, Science and Technology Fund. In other words, the fund that should cater and provide funding to all of the R&D and innovation activities in country. Within the Act, though, the fund is placed under the NCRST. So the NCRST administers the fund. So in other countries, you would have a national research fund. That fund, by us, is actually together with the NCRST. So in other countries, you would have three entities that performs the function of what we are performing. One would be a national research fund. One would be a National Commission on Research, Science and Technology, which is a regulatory organ for research. And then you would also have an innovation agency. We have all three into one under the NCRST. So our main task or mandate is to coordinate, promote and develop research, science, technology and innovation in the country. We also do the monitoring and supervision, which means that's the regulatory function that we are doing. The Act further stipulates specifically that we have to establish councils in Namibia. In that we have a biosafety council, then we also have a space science council, and the next council that will be appointed is an indigenous knowledge council. And these councils actually have their administrative functions with the NCRST, so we oversee all of it. Then we also explicitly are mandated within the Act that we have to develop a national program on research, science, technology and innovation every 3 to 5 years. We are busy with the second one at the moment. We refer to it oftentimes as the National Research and Innovation Agenda. A very important function for us is also we have to provide, of course, the funding for R&D and innovation in the country to the researchers, but also we are responsible for postgraduate scholarships. So you might have, encountered a few students already who've graduated and were supported by the NCRST. And then, of course, we have to provide direction and policy guidance to the President, to the Parliament, to the ministers, etc. for the country. And very important, we are also responsible for setting up, establishing or commissioning national R&D and national innovation facilities in country. And then we make the international collaborations with various partners. So that in a nutshell is basically about what the functions are of the NCRST. Now, the program that is of note at the moment that is under development is the second National Program on Research, Science, Technology and Innovation. And as I said, I will refer to it as the National Research Agenda because that is what it's known in other countries as well. So this is essentially a comprehensive plan that defines the priorities for scientific and technological research and innovation. And these priorities should essentially address critical challenges for the advancement and well-being of Namibia and Namibians. Now, this plan actually runs together like the kickoff for the sixth National Development Plan has a white paper out that is based on a gap analysis of where we need to go to if we want to attain the aspirations for Vision 2030. There was a gap analysis done. Now we work according to that gap analysis, according to that white paper. What are those priorities specified? Then we also use a bottom-up approach. In other words, we do consultations with many stakeholders to define what are the priorities for the country. Like right now, one sees, for instance, green hydrogen, one sees critical raw materials, and one sees oil and gas, and of course agriculture is always one of the big items. And then of course with this, we see the nexus of food, water, and energy security. And so that features very prominently on our agenda. And then with that, of course, that features under the umbrella of climate change, mitigation and adaptation. Now, within the National Research Agenda, we define what are those priority areas, but we also define instruments of how we want to address it. For instance, we have specific what is called research calls or innovation calls that are defined also within that agenda. And it outlines essentially what are the research funding, how much do we need per priority area. So we actually define how much money we need to, we need to internationally fundraise, also we need to ask Parliament for some of the money, and then we distribute that money for those activities. We also define the human capacity development aspect within there. Human capacity development in terms of skills, in terms of addressing youth unemployment, in terms of the R&D, for instance, facilities. Usually we also look at establishment of research chairs within universities, and with the research chairs you basically have to give them seed funding for postdoctoral fellows, you have to give them money scholarships for PhD, scholarships for masters. You have to give them money essentially for research infrastructure. So we do the infrastructure investment, and then importantly we also define within that plan what are the national facilities that we need in the country. What are the R&D national laboratories that we need? What are the industrial size innovation facilities as well as innovation hubs that we need across the country? And that plan serves then as basis for us also to get international funding. So when we do bilateral negotiations between governments, that is also the basis of it. So in terms of this particular plan that we have currently, and this one will be completed by the end of January 2024, and then it will head to Cabinet for approval. And the first sort of priority area that we have in here is building a national system of innovation, the capacities and the competence for it. So we want to strengthen the funding mechanisms for science, technology and innovation, create an enabling policy, legislative and regulatory environment, strengthen national infrastructure, build human capital for R&D, science, technology and innovation, as well as to build strategic partnerships. This is why we often go out and conclude those type of overarching partnerships for the country, where we will then introduce in turn under those sort of country-to-country bilaterals, we will introduce the various institutions to each other as well. The second pillar that we have is harnessing the science, technology and innovation for societal advancement and transition to sustainability. here we have specific areas that we consider as priority areas. Sustainable agriculture, land degradation, droughts and desertification, biological diversity, climate change, energy, and under energy, it's the whole nexus. We're looking at the whole range. So currently they're focusing on green hydrogen, oil and gas, but also on biomass, for instance. NCRST is supporting projects in that as well. Water security, circular blue economy, health and well-being, and then of course building R&D capacity and promoting human and social sciences. One thing that's very important is when we're looking at our national research agenda, we are going for impact. It needs to be impact-driven, needs to show impact. If we are saying that we are investing and we are giving out a research call, we want to follow a transdisciplinary approach. That means that you get the community on board. You need to have the community, you need to have the private sector, you need to have the researchers, you need to have government, all of them on board in a type of consortium, because you need to show impact in the community. And how we measure it is, had we not had that intervention, would there have been the changes that there are, right? So you need to show that something is changing within that community. We don't just want to see publications, paper publications, and masters and PhD student graduating. We actually want to see the change on the ground with the money that we are giving out towards research funding. Then we also do promoting industrial innovation. So here we're looking at manufacturing and industrial competitiveness, and we're looking at strategy and technology transfer, and we are looking at promoting sustainability-oriented research and innovation in the mining and fuel sector. Now, as an example, on one of the areas, or some of the areas that are already earmarked for funding, and for some of them we already have active research calls out, but we are also welcoming any partners who want to invest in country. Let's say the Ministry of Health, for instance, says that we have a specific need that we would like to give out as a research call for universities and communities to work on, then we can administer that. That can come through NCRST. So some of the areas are the food, water, energy security, biodiversity, marine and agricultural biodiversity, technologies for climate change prediction and mitigation, climate change impact on our biodiversity, resilience, housing solutions in the face of extreme weather patterns, impact of extreme heat and drought on agricultural productivity, droughts, and the impact of extreme events on biodiversity and native species. This is, for instance, one example of a thematic area on climate change and biodiversity, and then all of the research sort of areas that you define under that. Currently, we have actually secured funding from partners, and we have 4 calls that are active at the moment, where we had advertised in the newspapers and everywhere else that we are calling for proposals to do research into enhancing energy security and waste management in the informal settlements of Namibia. Remember, we want to see impact, right? If we give out a call, if we give out the money, and the money would be dispersed over a 3-year period, we want to see what is actually changing through the research that we're doing. Development of digital solutions in horticulture value chains, space science and technology for disaster risk management and governance, and then there's a 4th call, AI for healthcare, early detection, diagnosis, and early treatment of chronic diseases in Namibia. There is a call that closed already that was in AI in agriculture, and then we have one more call that will be launched soon, where we had also secured the money. And remember that this research is conducted over a 3-year period. So one needs to have the researchers, one needs to have the government partners, one needs to have the community, and one needs to have some private sector partners, because it's sustainability of research as well. So what's going to happen beyond just doing this research? I've mentioned already that we are responsible for establishing councils. At the moment we have the Biosafety Council, and we actually have a national genetically modified organisms testing laboratory in country. We also issue all of the permits for GMOs. We do inspections also at the border post. We work very closely with the Namibia Agronomic Board, NAB, on our national GMO testing laboratory. What we are doing on that one is we're working towards getting our national facilities accredited, because it's very important for the reliability of your results. So this is one of our big areas that we are focusing on. And when we say focusing on national R&D facilities, we mean actually to establish accredited and certified laboratories. And then of course under space science we have quite a number of activities. My colleague Benjamin will speak about the satellite receiving ground station that we are currently busy building, that's under construction. It's an own one for Namibia. It's not somebody else's, it's Namibia's, right? And then of course we also support the HESS telescopes, the gamma ray telescopes, and we support other space science activities such as high performance computing centers that we had established at NAST and UNAM supercomputers. So we're also looking at big data capability. Then we had just actually last week, the bioeconomy strategy was passed by Cabinet. And so this strategy for Namibia will now be implemented, and we will essentially oversee it. And as you can see, that although NCRST is sort of the administering it and the overseeing the implementation, there are a number of ministries who are involved with this bioeconomy strategy. We also have a number of innovation programs. We have grassroots innovation programs running, but we also have more specifically targeted innovation challenges running. And NCRST is the focal point for the Southern Africa Innovation Collective, which is innovation hubs in Southern Africa, 5 of them, and we are the coordination point. The reason why we want to focus on looking at industrial size innovation is because we're seeing that with the mineral beneficiation strategy, we have to set up sort of commercial industrial innovation centers within country. So we are going to upscale it, but there's still a need for small and medium entrepreneurs, you know, across the country in all of the regions to sort of have spaces where they can come and incubate their products or their services. So this is also something that we are setting up. We are inviting any partners who would like to set up, you know, or partner with us in setting up innovation hubs, etc., and we will assist in helping to coordinate setting up those innovation hubs. Then the NCRST is also responsible for data of the country. We are responsible for the National R&D Survey. That means what is the GERT, the percentage of money that the government is spending, or the gross expenditure on R&D in the country. We're also responsible for infrastructure mapping and sharing, so what equipment exists where are the labs, who can access it, etc. And then of course things like the National Innovation Survey, which is lagging a bit. If there are partners out there who would like to partner with us in conducting the National Innovation Survey, because ours is age 2014, you are very welcome. So one of the more specific things that I want to highlight is our current initiatives, as an example, on green hydrogen and critical raw materials. We are sort of conducting a national soft and hard skills audit, a skills gap analysis, and a workforce future planning to assess skills availability in the market. we have particular partners that we are working with. If there are partners who would like to join in this skills analysis, or private companies, etc., then please do contact us, because we would like to establish a comprehensive model for personnel competency and planning within the sector, categorizing jobs based on their types, competence, and levels of expertise. Here I must say that there was an initial skills audit conducted with the support of GIZ. This is a follow-up to that one. So this is not a duplication, but this is the next step to that skills audit that was conducted. And then, of course, we will be conducting a national audit on infrastructure required towards the training, certification, and accreditation, especially international accreditation of trainees, trainer, equipment, as well as the programs. And then, of course, we also have a value chain mapping of local SME innovators' capacity, building and forecasting, as well as the design of an SME innovators program. Remember that these ones, NCRST is a facilitator. So we don't have like the researchers running around and doing this. We started, we get the money, and then we commission it, right? So it will be the universities or an entity within Namibia who will actually be doing this. And then we, finally, we have a study tour for the education and research sector to the EU, especially on green hydrogen, in late February 2024, because we have to, define the strategy and the implementation plan, as well as which actor is doing what. That is towards that coordination within the education and research sector. Now, this is just briefly on science promotion. That we have the National Mathematics Olympiad, the Science Week, the Science Fair, demo and maker spaces, as well as a research symposium. Perhaps to mention here, Namibia has never participated on our own in the in the Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad. This year was the first time that Namibia participated, and Namibia will be hosting the Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad next year. Namibia had applied for international participation in the International Mathematics Olympiad, and we have received observer status this year. So from next year onwards, we will actually start to participate internationally. Because, as you know, a strong science base starts also with mathematics strengthening at school level. I will now, at this point in time, hand over for the remainder of the presentation to my colleague Ben, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you very much, Prof, for making it easier for me. Good afternoon, colleagues. I think I'll take you just for the few slides that are remaining, starting with the capability for early warning improvement through the ground station that Prof just mentioned a few minutes ago. We are working with partners and also through our Ministry of Higher Education to build a satellite data direct receiving ground station, which means now we will be able to directly receive data from satellites in orbit and not working with secondary data. Sometimes that's coming from already made product. You see, like when we receive data from NASA or ESA or other platforms, it's very difficult for you to make, because it's already like they put it in level, like level 1, level 2, level 3 data. So you get data that is almost like a map form. You don't have access to the raw data. So it's kind of summarized for you. So this facility is happening, it's under construction south of UNAP, 10 kilometers. You'll be able to visit it. And we actually have already discussed, especially with the Office of the Prime Minister is very interested, because I think they will be one of the best clients, or to say it will service them, especially because they are in the disaster risk management space, but also in agro-meteorology, and the whole concept note is there, and if anybody wants to know more about it, we'll be able to share the detail, because we want also to align with the partners so that we see that what are the thematic areas that the station has solved. The HPC also was already mentioned. We know that there's a lot of data, especially in the computer space, that sometimes in our years, like sometimes we have to leave the computer running and go home and find it in the morning in the lab. But now we will be able to do this in a fraction of, let me say, not really a fraction, but in less than a few minutes. Because you have like 40 computers or 80 computers in a rack that are doing the same activity that one computer was supposed to do. So you have like 1/40 or 1/8 of the time that we have taken. Yeah, I think now when it comes now to the science and innovation in the overall climate space, we have been here, we are aware that science and innovation is cross-cutting. So in all areas of climate change, whether adaptation, mitigation, or resilience, it all require science and innovation. So that's why we are here to follow also just not only climate finance, but also issues with the SAPSTAR, the scientific body on technological and scientific advice, and also the early warning that I think the colleagues who have seen the early warning for United Arab Emirates, I think you have seen it. You will see the need that we need to have our own. Okay, we are having a ground station, but it's better even to have a satellite that we can see. They should focus only in these areas, because we even have a very sensitive environment, so you don't want to have this temporary resolution of like 7 days like this for other satellites that are visiting the same place every 7 days or every 14 days. So some of our changes might already be happened in that space. Okay, so as a start, some of you might be aware that there was a National Youth Climate Change Summit in Namibia. I think it was September, somewhere there, September or August. We have had interns participating in that summit, and from there they have seen what they have observed and what were the challenges that were presented in that summit. They were then as NCRST, we had 15 interns, so they have to come up with innovation or proposals to say how do they then address issues that are being discussed at the national stage. So we have had 3 teams, and one team was talking about was their project was Step It Up. So you see the first one there. The second one was Climate Wise, and then the third one was vermi composting. So the first 2 was more on awareness. We all know that there is already awareness happening, but they just wanted to see how can they change the model in which our awareness activities are ongoing to reach more people, or for the message to be more impactful than what it is now. And the third one is now on vermi composting, where this project is more like aimed to mitigate methane emissions. As you know, like in our landfills and in our mostly agricultural activities, there's a lot of methane that's happening, and this is just see the picture at the bottom left, I think right to you, that you will see then they had their experiment set up at a small one at our offices, but it's something that can be upscaled once we get somebody to uptake this type of innovations. So what is really now what we intend to do now to focus when it comes to climate change priorities at NCRSD? I think the important one now is to engage on international technology innovation cooperation that deals with the technology mechanism. So I think for this one, it's even important. There's even a meeting specifically on this this afternoon at 3 o'clock for those who want to follow. We would want to see that we share these opportunities and see if there is an event on international cooperation on such innovation. We want to participate and see how we can pull the resources to Namibia. The second one is the technology needs assessment. I think that will go in hand with already what we say we do, the surveys, the infrastructure surveys, and the R&D surveys. But now we want to do technology needs assessment that can support the technology mechanism that we mentioned in the previous, the one I just mentioned now. Because we need to, as part of the technology mechanism of the UNFCCC, we need to know, we need to give a report what our technology needs so that it's easy to apply for funding for this need. And then we also need accreditation or registration with the climate technology funding agencies. I'm not so sure if African Development Bank needs accreditation, but I know for sure GCF needs this type of accreditation. And I think it's time now to start with the discussion with the ministry and all of you here. That how can we then have a dedicated entity to be accredited for technology transfer, so that we can then tap in with this technology mechanism of the UNFCCC. Also to have then innovation and research and development course focused on climate mitigation and adaptation and resilience. I think just in my first 3 days here, I was following the Center for Global Adaptation for the GCA. So they have a lot of platforms for youth involvement in this innovation, like even how to use recycled materials to come up with, especially now that we are in this circular economy, we need to make sure that almost everything that we use can be used again and not just end up as a waste. And we need a lot of climate change innovations to make sure that we don't produce more waste, but reuse as much as we can. Knowledge exchange, I think Prof also already mentioned about the knowledge exchange in the green hydrogen space for the study tour. But we also have a lot of MOUs already with partners, especially in Europe and also in Africa, where we exchange knowledge. But we would now would like more of this in the technology mechanism framework, where we will have, for example, countries that are doing very well in the Global Innovation Index, countries like Singapore, Malaysia, to say how do we then exchange that innovations with the country, the non-Annex 1 parties, of which we are one. So we'd like to have this kind of information or exchange. And then the second last is to have technology centers. Currently, I don't know, for those who have seen the Global Innovation Index ranking that came out last month, we are ranked very well in terms of institutions. We have good institutions, we have researchers, but we don't have technology outputs. And I think that is because we don't have a platform where these research results get into products and services. So it's very easy for a consortium of 20 researchers working on a product, but if you have 3 from South Africa, 3 from Canada, whatever, they can get those results, help their economies easily. But in Namibia, we only get a thesis or an article, whatever. But because we don't have ways to transform our research results into products and services. Yeah, and I think the last one is now we have also national R&D facilities. That speaks to the previous one. I think it will also be informed now by the R&D infrastructure survey that's going on, and for those who probably were approached, we need to have a complete understanding of what infrastructure is sitting where, who can access it, is it accessed by for free or by charge, or, because we are even thinking that even like for some countries like South Africa or Zambia, if we have a very big infrastructure in fishery, we don't need to build one again here. We can still capacity that one, and then we can share knowledge. Yeah, I think the next one is for Prof to conclude. I think you want to speak a bit to it. I think from my side, I thank you.
Benjamin was speaking about accreditations that we as a country need as well. For instance, because we are we have a number of accreditations that we have to go through. For instance, the GFGP with the African Union, we were just actually rated as very low risk, so we got a very good rating on that, because that also increases our ability to attract more funding. The NCRST has an excellent track record in terms of handling the funds, also in terms of our monitoring and evaluation of those funds, and also in terms of project execution. So that makes us sort of an excellent partner to partner with. And then just as an example, we have a number of memberships and collaborations as well. We're a member of the Global Research Council, the Science Granting Councils. We are a member of the International Science Council as well. And then we collaborate with a number of entities, and this is just a fraction of them. So finally, if you have any questions, or you want to partner, or you want to have more information, mostly if you have money for us, for the country, to set up, some facilities and infrastructure for our researchers, you are more than welcome to please contact us. And at this juncture, I will we will take questions, because we still have about 15 minutes in the session.
No, thank you, Prof, and thank you, Benjamin. This is very enlightening for Namibia to be recognized of having very good institutions ranking high. But the three questions or comments I have is, you're very right about this collection of technology that is based in institutions but not transferred, especially to the community. Because with the World Food Program, our role is to do the food soldier efforts across the 14 regions, and we find it very difficult to translate things that are passed at national level and pass it to Mama Regina or Mama Veronica, because there's so many barriers to get these things to the community. And so I'm happy that, Benjamin, you mentioned that that's a problem that has been identified. So we will pursue the partnership with you, because we have seen success, especially where we have resettlement farms where the San community is resettled. We've seen a lot of uptake of technology, research-based, and applied to their community. The second thing again is to thank you for all the work you're doing on the skill gap analysis. I think in the group WhatsApp yesterday we were looking at a Dutch embassy advertisement of a green hydrogen expert to be based in Namibia, and I think we should be the ones having those experts. So how we can accelerate the journey to make available our youth, because we have very brilliant young people in Namibia. We don't have to wait for 6 years for them to go to the market. I have met a lot of people here who only knew about green hydrogen last year, and now they're experts in this scope. So I think the best thing for us is to have that leap of faith in our people, like not to think too many times about these big degrees and certificates, but if a student is keen and able, let's give them a chance. And the last one is about some of the research and funding opportunities that we, from the World Food Program, I know we are also guilty, just as any other institutions. We send out these calls for proposals for people to apply to some of these opportunities. But when you look at some of these opportunities, application requirements, they are very difficult to follow if you're in the village. Because in the village you're asked call for proposals, eligibility criteria, you must have a bank account, your business must be registered and having financial statements for the last three years. I am a young man in a small village of Talismanis. I never have an account, but I'm doing a farming business. So how do I qualify for some of these requirements? So I've seen a lot of these calls for proposals ending up in the pockets of the same people who get these proposals every year because they have their suitcase ready. They know what organizations are looking for. The moment you advertise a call for proposals, they apply and get it. But this poor guy who is seated in a small village on a matanga or in villages far in Falkras, don't have that capacity to make this application. So I think as we continue to fill this skills gap, it's good to realize how to stretch our knowledge, our solutions to the end.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Honorable. Welcome to the session. Our session is on a presentation by NCRST on what we are doing about research and development as well as innovation in the country, and how do we want to go about those investments. We are just now with the Q&A session. So I regret now that you declined having the microphone because the session is recorded and you had very amazing inputs, and now we sort of have to sort of answer without the audience knowing what the question was. However, I will start with the last one. How do we get those, the money or the researchers to participate when they are from village level, etc.? How do you define the beneficiaries if they don't have, the bank accounts? I think that's not only a question in general in terms of research and innovation, but it's also a question on, we run innovation programs where we not only the grassroots innovation programs in the regions, but we also run these sort of innovation challenges. Since 2017, we have a particular innovation challenge for women. And while we have amazing results, and we have a 2-year cycle, right, for innovators, and we can really see them upscale their business in country. However, the barrier for them to access international markets, because some of them we actually want to assist them to access the international markets, is still very, it's quite difficult for them to do that. And of course we all know in Namibia that it's the international pay gates that is a problem for our entrepreneurs. Now, coming back then domestically, though, for how do you then evaluate, sort of, especially youth, to participate in these type of calls if they don't have the necessary experience or even the bank accounts, right? Or they might be what you call mom and pop, sort of kuka shops or so, not quite kuka shops, but shops that they want to participate as well. And I think that at the NCRST, this is one of the areas that I will definitely sort of note, that we work on that and that we see how can we actually facilitate that, because it could also be that, because we do a lot of outreach to the regions, you know, in sort of on biosafety. For instance, we have many awareness campaigns, and constantly our folks are going out and we're looking at the innovation hubs in the regions. So it could be that we can sort of see how we can address that through perhaps establishing a mechanism that will facilitate their participation. In terms of, you know, having brilliant minds in Namibia, the middle question is the second question that you were asking, how do we get them involved? At this point in time, what we are doing at the moment, because we seem to be also currently a stop for many of the, not only the youth out there, you know, fresh graduates, people who just finished their master's or PhD degree, you know, somewhere and they are without a job, but also for those in the diaspora. So we get a lot of requests, and what we started to do now is we said, okay, if you are willing to serve on a national scientific committee on a particular topic, let's say green hydrogen, or critical raw materials, or a topic on biodiversity, then we appoint you sort of that you're affiliated on that national committee, and then you actually do some work on that, and that will actually get you involved. It gets a foot in the door, but it will also build your experience, and then we can sort of, you know, move it further. NCRST has a program in partnership with CSIR in South Africa, where we actually send those who are finishing in manufacturing, those who are finishing from universities with a first degree, we actually send them for an attachment of 6 months to CSIR in South Africa to get in-depth hands-on training. What we do with them once they come back is we absorb them. You've seen that we have 15 interns. Some of those interns are actually some of the interns from the CSIR who return, because we are running the GMO lab. We need a lot of scientists, for instance, in the lab. So that's one of the programs that we are running as well to you know, upskill capacity. But I do agree with you that sometimes you just need to give them an opportunity. Your first question, it wasn't a question, I think it was more of a comment that you made on the sort of technology transfer that Benjamin was speaking about. And yes, absolutely. I think that there's a need for establishing those technology transfer sort of platforms. The Innovation Index is also interesting because it places Namibia 9th within the whole of Africa and 6th within Sub-Saharan Africa. And yes, it's always the institutions that is ranked very highly, but then the knowledge creation and knowledge transfer is always ranked sort of lower. We will also be issuing the results of the R&D survey, in other words, the GERD, for the country. We will launch it early in the new year, in 2024, because we've received the results back. It's certified at this point in time, because it's national data, it's certified by the Statistics Agency, but we will be releasing those results so that Namibia has updated figures, because we're still relying on the figures from 2014. Benjamin, you want to comment on the comment? Okay, he says he's good. Any other questions? Comments? If none, thank you so much for your attention and being here. It's really appreciated.